Hey guys, welcome to this video, and today I'm going to be talking about the big breaking news coming out of F1. News that Red Bull Racing have signed a deal with Honda, a multi-year deal to start in 2019 to be Aston Martin Red Bull Racing Honda. It's fascinating, and in this video I'm going to be covering this deal. I'm going to be covering Honda's return to F1 and talk a bit more about engine deals in general, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions, and honestly I think Honda at this stage are doing pretty well. So let's get right into it by talking about this deal, and whilst it comes as a little bit of a surprise, it doesn't come as too much of a surprise. So it's now been, 5 seasons, that we're in the 5th season since Red Bull have won any kind of silverware in terms of constructors or drivers' championships, since they got the double for the last time with Seb Vettel. And at the same time, whilst Renault have started to step up their program, they came back a couple of years ago with a works team, and they're pouring more and more money into it now. The Renault engine still seems to be the third best, and the Honda one is constantly improving. The Toro Rosso has done really well this year, and Toro Rosso have benefited from having this Honda deal because they've worked differently to McLaren. And I'll get more onto that in a second, but to be honest, it makes sense, because right now Red Bull are committing to pretty much 2 years. In 2021, Aston Martin might come in, and then they've got the Aston Martin Red Bull Racing properly. And they can just ditch Honda then. Honda might find another team. Honda might be the best engine on the grid. So it's completely up to them at that point, and it's a good idea because you can experiment, and in a couple of years, if it doesn't work out, you can opt out, get a new engine supplier, because you're hoping that there are going to be a few more coming in with this great big rule change that's coming in 2021. A bit more about the actual necessities of it and Honda's return. So right now we're in, the 4th season since Honda's return, and I think it was a bit stupid for people to presume that Honda would come back in with an absolute kick-ass engine. We don't really see that happening in F1, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But one of the biggest restrictions they had was they had to do what McLaren wanted, and later on they had to do what Alonso wanted. If you watch my video I did on Sunday about whether or not Alonso is overrated as a driver or overrated in general, you'll be able to hear more about this opinion. But essentially a lot of it collapsed in the end because Alonso wanted something that Honda weren't prepared to do. Or if they were doing it, a couple of races later, it was the wrong thing. That's where they've really benefited from having Toro Rosso this year. Toro Rosso have been like, okay, we'll work around you. And Red Bull could potentially be like that as well. As I've pointed out several times this season, the Honda has finished higher than the McLaren Renault. Whilst it's not been consistent, it has been one-offs. Our 4th place at Bahrain showed the kind of potential that the Honda power unit actually has. And at the end of the day, this is year 4 of what I usually see as either a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. And I'm actually going to use a pretty good example here. I'm going to use Mercedes. So Mercedes came back into F1 in the mid-90s. And it wasn't really until 97, when they were with McLaren, that they picked up wins. I think it was 97 Melbourne, where they got their first win as an engine supplier since returning to F1. It took them a couple of seasons to be getting podiums and to be getting high point finishes, even though we're talking about the 90s where cars were arguably a bit less reliable. So if it took some geniuses like Mercedes so long, why are we so impatient to get Honda back up to winning ways? And why were McLaren so impatient? Because by the looks of things, the engine has been quite good this season. And it's largely because of money. F1 is largely run by the money. Whilst it doesn't particularly change year on year, especially for big teams, and especially even more so if you're Ferrari, but then Ferrari don't have engine quandaries. There's still the fact that you're going to need to have money, and that's why teams like Force India can't take a gamble on Honda engine. Teams like Red Bull can. It's become incredibly likely now that we might end up looking at the next season, and we'll see a Honda engine, a Mercedes engine, a Ferrari engine, and a Renault engine as the top four. And that would be brilliant. That would be fascinating. It all depends on how Honda behave and how Renault behave over the rest of this season. Yeah, honestly, my view is that the rest of the season is going to be an interesting one. And next season is going to be a good one too. I think the Red Bull-Honda partnership might go very well. And worst case scenario for Red Bull, it's a couple of years and then maybe an even bigger name in 2021. But at the same time, this is the fourth year for Honda returning, and in their fifth year is where they're properly going to find their stride. I don't understand why people expected in 2015 to see the McLaren Honda right up on top. It wasn't going to be like that. The last couple of proper flukes we had like that are, for example, in the rallying world when Volkswagen came back in with an undefeatable machine. But even then they had so much experience. They'd been working for so many years to get it up to spec. And even delayed the launch of their car so they could do even better. But, as always, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Do you think Honda is doing much better this season? Do you think Honda will do even better next season? How much do you reckon Red Bull are going to benefit from Toro Rosso? How much do you think Honda are going to benefit from having two teams compared to having the one team? And do you think that McLaren, this is going to be an interesting debate, do you think McLaren should have stayed with Honda, looking at the improvements that Honda's made this season and the kind of deal they grabbed next season? These are all ones that we can have in the comments below. I'll get into them if you're being pretty civil. Until then, thank you for watching. If you like the music you're hearing, go to my SoundCloud. You can hear more, including my newest release, which is going to be coming out in a couple of months, which is Love Trail Remapped and Off the Beaten Path. This stuff was off a Fail and Loop section. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.